pricing is definitely one of those things where I really, really touch on during my workshops with other photographers. It's one of those things where photographers, they don't want to talk about it because they feel like, I'm an artist, money, who cares, but if you do this as a full-time job, I mean, you have to care about money. You have to care about how you price yourself. And pricing is not just a way to make money. Pricing is also a way to brand. It's part of my branding, basically. If you're trying to hit the high-end clientele, your pricing has to reflect that. Otherwise, there's a hole in your branding.
Welcome to the Wedding Video Boss podcast. I am your host, Paul Santiago. Today is Masterclass Monday, which means you need to bring out your notepad, your pen, tablet, your quill, or whatever you use to take notes because you're not going to want to miss this one. I think today's instructor is almost ready, so let me give you a head start to grab that coffee or microwaved beer or whatever warm beverage you have, and let's start the class. Jeremy Chou is an international wedding photographer based out of Southern California. In the past 10 years, he's established himself as one of the most sought after wedding photographers in the industry. His work has been seen throughout all major US wedding blogs and select wedding publications. In addition to weddings, he also holds regular workshops throughout the US and other international destinations for up and coming wedding photographers. So, friends, help me in welcoming Jeremy Chou. What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to ask you what you've been up to recently.
Well, beginning of the year is usually pretty slow. Like nobody's getting married around Christmas time, so I've been just taking a few months off, just hanging out with family, and then just planning, like updating websites, marketing materials, making submissions. I do have a few style shoots planned just coming up. Really excited about it. But yeah, other than that, just doing all the back behind the scenes and taxes and all the.
Oh, those fun stuff. Yeah, that's why we're pushing for the podcast too because this is like the slow season for us. I've
Yeah, the fun stuff nobody talks about.
yeah. So I've seen on your Instagram that you were in Mexico and
Yeah.
it looked like it was such a treat because you were working with really good vendors there and the resort was do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So basically, I got hired by Resort Grand Velas Resorts down in Mexico. They have 5 properties throughout Mexico, and in the push to kind of attract the more luxury brides, they basically hired me to do style shoots on different properties. So we just finished 3 properties. I'm going back in March to do 2 more. Basically, we just set up this over the top style shoots at every property, and with higher models. Just do like a really high end design, and then use the images for them to market to attract the future clients.
I always wonder how you get these really amazing high end styled shoots. Do you
Um,
remember how you got this?
yeah. So honest, there's no like one. There's not one kind of magic bullet answer to like, hey, this is what you do, and you get this commissions. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been going at this for 10 years now, so I think it's just throughout the 10 years where you really try to curate your work, try to attract a really specific niche of clients, and the planner for this shoot, she noticed me on Instagram. She started following my work, really liked the aesthetic that I have, and she actually said how she loves how consistent everything is on my feed, and then she that's kind of the look that they want. So she contacted me, and then here we are. We're onto property 4 and 5 in about 2 months, end of March here. So yeah, so it's basically through social media, and then she saw it, and then she emailed me. We started chatting about it, and then I think she has contacted other photographers before as well, some pretty big names. Actually, when she told me, I was a little scared that she's contacted me because there's a lot of pressure. But I'm glad it worked out.
You said you've been in the industry for 10 years, right? I
Yeah.
wonder how you started.
So in my previous life, I was an architect. And I actually went to school for architecture. I have a degree in architecture and everything. And when I first started, I just got bored with architecture. And my daughters were just born, so I started taking pictures of them and then put it on Flickr. This was before like Instagrams. Facebook was still not popular, so put it on Flickr and then eventually put it on Facebook. People saw it and then they liked it. They asked me to shoot family photos, and family photos led to engagement photos. Engagement photos led to weddings, and here we are, 10 years later, still doing it.
Oh man, that's so cool. I wonder now when you started out, because when I started out, like as a Filipino and a guy in the wedding industry, and we came here in 2008, so I was like 28 years old, and
Right.
I had a lot of struggles, like just trying to get into the industry and trying to be
Yeah.
recognized. Did you have any similar situations?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start until I was 30, so I'm
Oh
almost
wow.
41 now. So yeah, so it's definitely a second career, and yeah, like everybody else, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. Um, what I did is I networked a lot. So in my second shot like crazy. I think my first year, I couldn't tell you the breakdown right now, but my first year I shot more than 30 weddings my first year. I mean, the majority of that was second shooting. But I shot for a photographer called Shannon Lee, and then she allowed me to use the photos from my portfolio, and then from that I was able to use those photos to attract more clients, and then it just kind of slowly grew from there.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. It's definitely a second career for me.
I recently was reading your blog post. I actually was reading the older one, and then I remember you showing me this new one. But I want to talk about the first one, which is the reasons why photography businesses fail, and
Yeah.
it really resonates with me when I when I read through the whole list, and I'd love it if you talk about that briefly.
Yeah, so I wrote a blog post about how like why I think photographers fail. I mean, 50% small businesses will fail within the first 5 years. I mean, that's just statistically speaking in America. And but on top of that, being a creative type of business will fail at even higher rate. But throughout the years, I've also taught workshops and talked to hundreds of photographers, and I kind of figure out the 5 reasons why most photographers will fail. um, so like number one, it's just a lack of technical skills. I mean, that sounds really weird. Like, how can you be a photographer and not know how to shoot? But nowadays, it's almost like you can fake it until you make it. So a lot of new photographers pick up a camera, and the camera is so advanced now. You can take a pretty decent photo just just by pure luck. You can take a pretty decent photo.
Yeah.
Um, but being successful and being like a long-term career, you really need to master the ins and outs of your camera. And then weddings a very fluid environment where lighting changes, and your client all of a sudden turns around and you have like a four stops of difference in lighting situation. I mean, it's a very fluid environment, so you really need to know how to like change your settings on your cameras, and how to do that on the fly. And especially now I shoot film primarily, is even more difficult because I can't see what's in my I can't see the photos. So I kind of have to really know lighting, and really control the situation for me to deliver the best photos for my clients.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for working for someone else first, or finding like a mentor before jumping into your own business, and
yeah.
more because you need to know your camera and you need to get used to it. So people, including myself, when they were starting out, they did their trial and error with their own business, with their own clients, and that was like weird for me. That so how do you feel about that? How do you feel about second shooting first and looking for a mentor first to perfect your craft?
Well, I would, when I first started, that's all I did. I second shot, I took workshops. Like, workshops wasn't a big thing back then, but I seek out a few photographers that actually did it. Um, but I second shot a whole bunch. There's nothing like learning how to do this on a real job situation. But second shooting was very important in the sense that it took some pressure off me, and again, all the credit goes to Shannon for allowing me to use the photos. But she taught me how, different situation, what to do. Um, but I also talked to other photographers where they say they've never second shot, where they just kind of jump straight into a primary shooting. They don't second shoot, and there's people that succeed with that too. I think the most important part is make sure the clients that's hiring you um, understand what your experience is. Like, don't oversell yourself, because you're messing with someone's wedding day. Like, don't oversell your experience. If the client is fully aware of you're brand new, you've only shot a handful of weddings, but they still trust you enough to shoot your weddings, hey, more power to you. Um, but yeah, I would say definitely, practice a lot second shoot, and before jumping into taking on your clients.
Okay, yeah. I I remember when we started out shooting all these weddings, and when we go to production and we start editing the videos, and I'm like, holy crap, I totally forgot about this shot. It's just never
Yeah,
never intentional. So it's funny that all of these things happen without any like experience. So I really like vouch for making sure that you work for someone else, and or looking
yeah,
for a mentor and doing the workshops.
yeah.
So
I mean, or just offer to carry bags and whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
done it.
yeah, yeah.
Ain't no shame.
Okay, so let's go to number two. Not pricing yourself as a sustainable business. I think this is
Yeah. So
really important.
here's another thing with photographers. A lot of people jump into this as a hobby, and I started as a hobby, and I had a full time job. I didn't. The problem is a lot of people, because it is a hobby and they don't derive a full time income from it. They don't price themselves as a sustainable business. So there's going to come to a point where every hobbyist is going to have to decide: is this going to stay as a hobby, or am I going to take it more serious and make a business out of it? So now the problem is that if you've always priced yourself as a hobbyist and not as a sustainable business, when you make that switch, it's that's when most business is gonna fail, because you're gonna lose your entire client base, referral base, because now you realize you have to price yourself a certain rate in order to sustain it, to pay for insurance, taxes, pay your second shooter, reinvest back in your business. If you've been charging people $5 a wedding, all of a sudden you're gonna charge 3,000 because that's the kind of sustainable business rate. You're not gonna be able to do it, or you have to start over and try to find those clients. So my suggestion is always, when you first start, even though you're brand new, you should know your cost of doing business, and you should price it always as a sustainable business, not as a hobby. But again, this is only for those that want to turn to a full time business. If you always want to be a hobbyist and go out on weekends, I don't know, like 5 weddings a year and try to find your bugs, so do
Oh
that. There's a
man,
market for that as well.
yeah,
Um, but if you really want to make it a business, you have to start from day one. Or start thinking like a sustainable business from day one. I mean, so the two kind of business model is a low price, high volume, or a high price, low volume. So so if you're low price, high volume, it's kind of like the Walmart model, right? So you sell everything for cheap, but you sell hundreds of items, t-shirts for like $1, right? But or you can go a high price but low volume, which is more like a boutique kind of approach, where everything's super expensive, but you only do like 20 weddings a year, something like that.
yeah. That's really good because when I started out my business, my our
Hmm.
mindset was business. This isn't a hobby for us. But
Right.
I think for me the hardest part was raising the price. Well, the hardest part with the raising the price is the fear of no one booking, until my wife showed me the math, and she's like, "You just made $98 from this wedding," and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's terrible." So yeah,
Yeah.
that's I think for people who are in it for the business, the fear is once they raise the price, they're gonna lose that market and no one's gonna book him anymore. But
Yeah,
when we
and
did it,
honestly, that
yeah,
happens at every price range. So like I that's not. I mean, I've been doing this long enough where I went from starting at five. I shot my first wedding for free, and I went to 1,500. Now I'm like 10,000 plus. This happens at
Ooh.
every price range. This is not a reason not to raise your prices because it, how do I explain this? Once you go from 1,500 to 2,000, you're gonna lose your clients. Once you go from 2,000 to 3,000, you're gonna lose your clients. Once you go from 5,000 to 7,000, you're gonna lose your clients. This happens at every single price range. It's not good enough a reason for me to not raise my prices, I guess.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say maybe it's because we're from California. That's why there's like so much work here. But then you've been shooting in different states and in different countries. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean, SoCal is a good market, but as your price goes up, you have to expand your market because, the affluent, the kind of like the top 5%, 1% of weddings, those clients are they're there's more spread out now. It's not all in SoCal now, right? So, and the clients that can afford your rate, that they don't mind flying you somewhere to shoot a wedding. So you kind of have to, um, start looking at different markets as well.
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's go to number 3, fear of failure.
So this one's more mental, than anything else. So, when I first quit my day job, I mean, I was scared to death. I mean, I had a mortgage, I had two car payments, I had two kids. I got like really young kids I had to feed, I had to support, and I gotta put them through college, and there's all this fear of why I shouldn't do certain things, right? But I knew that I knew I wasn't happy being where I was. And this is not to say, if you're not happy, just get up and leave. I can't tell my kids that, hey, screw you guys, daddy's gonna be an artist now. I don't care if you guys don't eat, right? It was definitely a calculated risk. But I didn't let the fear of failure stop me from making the leap. You have to look at the entire picture, talk with your spouse, talk with your partner, whoever, that uh you're partner with, and then just kind of figure out the finances if you can make it work. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you lay, I mean, fear is good. For me, fear is a good motivator.
Yeah.
It doesn't cripple me from trying new things. It just motivates me to try harder and then plan better for whatever new uh, business venture I want to take on. But it shouldn't stop you from trying it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the fact that you're afraid means that you care, and you're pretty much leaving your comfort zone, which is always a good sign, right?
Yeah, and in my blog post, I actually quoted Jim Carrey, the great comedian. He
Oh,
said, "Fear is nothing more than obstacles disguised as practicality." So,
yeah,
all the things, the practical stuff in life, 401k, insurance, all those things, it's gonna kind of stop you from doing what your heart wants. And I think, especially in the creative field, if we don't feel passionate about what we do, we're not going to do a good job. So yeah, it was definitely really hard to quit my day job, but I mean, I'm so glad I did it. And again, 10 years later, I'm still here.
yeah. That's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah, still
Well,
here.
since you quoted Jim Carrey, I'm gonna quote Michael Jordan. He said, "Fear is an illusion," and I bought the shirt in high school.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't
Okay,
heard that one. That's good.
number 4, inconsistency
Yeah.
in work.
So yeah, that's another big one. So there's a lot of new photographers where naturally when you just started out, you try different filters, different editing style, different composition, different mood in your photos. Some photos might look really serious, some photos might look really, people having huge belly laughs. Whatever it is, the inconsistency in your work, it's actually a deterrent for clients to book you. It and I know it goes against like everything photographer taught, right? We always say, like, hey, you got to be creative, you got to be creative, but you can be creative within the confines of your brand.
Yeah,
And that's kind of what I teach in my workshop. Like, you can definitely, I still try to be creative every wedding, but it's within the brand. So, when you try to be inconsistent in your work, your client's gonna be, keep in mind your clients are booking you for a wedding that's like 8 months, a year out, right?
yeah,
So they want to make sure when their wedding rolls around, they're getting what they paid for, which is your work now, currently. So if you keep changing your style, your client's gonna get pissed when it comes to a wedding, and then all of a sudden your work looks different than what they booked you for. So this is a really hard one for photographers to grasp. But I struggle with that. It's because if we put ourselves in the client's shoes, right? We're hiring somebody, and all of a sudden when the wedding comes and their work's different, we're not gonna be like, hey, he's an artist, he can do whatever he wants. I'm so happy with this. No, we're gonna be mad. Like if what we pay for is not is changed. So with you photographers, I also, you get like a 5-year pass, right? To be as experimental, whatever you want with your work. But at some point, when you really want to move on to that next market, that next clientele base, you really have to find consistency in your work.
I'm a huge advocate also of knowing all the rules first, and then you break it. So you have a kind of like a basic guide for your work. So
Right.
whenever we break it, like for me, I hate it when the couple looks at the camera because it breaks the fourth wall. Or when they look like super serious, I hate it because um
Yeah.
that's not
So
our
I mean,
brand, you know. But you know,
yeah, so like some photographers, they like the big smiley photos, the big cheesy smiles, and some photographers like the really serious look. I mean, whatever it is, whatever works for you, you just gotta find something and stick with it, and then try to reproduce it every single time. Um, like if you don't like your clients looking at the camera, then your edits are gonna show your clients looking away, and just whatever it is, it's gotta be like super consistent about it.
yeah, yeah. There are times when we do like serious. We want them to make a serious face, but it's really
Hmm.
because of how they are. So we
Right.
always try to adapt to their personality. You know, with video, we try to we try to make sure that we show the personality of the couple. So those things we just stick to one. It's weird because we have this checklist in our minds of what we
Right.
need, but then when we break it, it it looks really good. But at the end of the day, it just all of our videos, they pretty much look the same. I hate saying cookie cutter because it isn't, but there's kind of like a formula
Well, no,
for
yeah,
us.
there's a well, that's the thing that get from photographers when I say this as well. They always say, well, it doesn't look boring, doesn't everything look the same? And I always tell them like, oh, go look at my blog. They don't all look the same. I mean, the formula is the same, but like the execution is definitely different based on the personality of each client. But there's a general theme that runs through every wedding, every blog post, every engagement session that I post. There's a general theme that everything kind of looks and feel the same. It's just one of those things where once you get it, it makes sense. But if you keep fighting and saying, well, then it looks boring, then no, you're never gonna get it.
Yeah, yeah. Which leads me to number 5, which is my favorite
Yeah,
thing is not understanding your ideal client base.
this one's a tricky one because again, I've taught a lot of workshops, and I've talked to many photographers, and you would think everybody wants to do the high end weddings because it seems like more fun and more elaborate, more things to shoot. But that's not necessarily true. Like I've had students where they say no, they want to focus on the high volume but lower cost weddings, right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is, again, there's nothing right or wrong about it. Like Walmart sells very cheap clothes, but it's one of the most profitable companies in the world, right?
Yeah.
um, there's not a right way or wrong way to do this. You just have to know. And what I've seen is photographers where when they know who their ideal client base are, they start making the wrong decisions for the business, for the pricing, for the marketing efforts. If you don't know who your client base is, you're not going to be able to target them.
So for us, we we realized that we wanted to do more local
Right.
clients. So our client base is more local people. So show we always highlight whenever we get like out of town weddings, we
Right.
still push for on our website we push for more of like the local ones. Like we're still
Yeah.
we're going to Hawaii in June for a Hawaii wedding, but good thing is they have two weddings and she's still getting married here in Orange County, so I'm like so happy because we could show it on our website. But yeah, we just more local people is our client base, and the just like what I told you about like the style, we want couples who are like laughing all the time and not so
Right.
serious and just normal people.
So if you look at my work, it's definitely a little. I would consider it's a little more serious, um, and not to a point where they look like they're mad, but it's definitely. I like the very gentle, very soft smiles. I like the very uh, kind of emotive kind of feeling to my photos. I don't like big belly laughs. And you're not gonna find that on my website. And here's the funny part, because I'm so consistent in the mood I portray in my work. My clients, when I book a clients now, they're all like that.
That's
Like
amazing.
they all just say we don't want this big cheesy huge laughs. They all say they don't want that anymore. They just say, we love the way you portray emotions. It's subdued. It's controlled. They like that, and the more consistent you are with your work, the more consistent your clients will become.
Yeah, that's what we've noticed. Like we always just attract the people that we post online and the people
Right.
that we so it's easier when you stay consistent because you're just gonna attract all these people. Your market is just gonna come
Right.
in. So now that we've talked about how not to fail, let's talk about my favorite topic, which is pricing. And
All right.
you recently posted an article on Maston Labs about the most common pricing mistakes for photographers. Do you want to talk
Right.
about that?
Yeah, sure. So pricing is definitely one of those things where I really, really touch on during my workshops with other photographers. It's one of those things where photographers, they don't want to talk about it because they feel like, I'm an artist, money, who cares, but if you do this as a full-time job, I mean, you have to care about money. You have to care about how you price yourself. And pricing is not just a way to make money. Pricing is also a way to brand, um, to it's part of my branding basically. If you're trying to hit the high end clientele, your pricing has to reflect that. Otherwise, there's a hole in your marketing, in your branding. So the top five most common pricing mistakes I feel is number one is not knowing your business model. So we kind of touched this a little bit earlier. So the business model, basically, you can have the high volume, um, but low cost, or low cost high volume. There are very few photographers can do both high cost and high volume. They're just literally like a handful of them, less than five of them that can do that. And those are like the top photographers in our field, right? So that's number one. You have to know your business model. Who are you trying to attract? And number two is something that it's kind of hard to hear for photographers. So, and I get this all the time. Again, in speaking with other photographers, where they keep saying that they want to, they want to book the $10,000 weddings, they want to book those kind of clients, but simply the work just will not allow them to do it, right? So it really comes down to, we're photographers, our work comes first. I know there's like a huge push now in social media and whatever about how, like, hey, no, your work doesn't matter, it's your personality. You're gonna win them over personality. What kind of dog do you have? What kind of boots do you wear? Like, it's stuff like that. But at the end of the day, our work is still what's the most important for us. And if your work is not good enough, you're just not going to be able to charge that kind of money. I don't know how else to put it, other than just kind of being pretty frank about it. Any kind of high dollar photographers. I mean, their work speaks for itself. Like,
Hmm.
you have to be really good at what you do. So now next one is let's see here.
Being in the
Oh, being in the
pricing.
price dead zone. So 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 here's kind of what I call this. I call it like it's the pricing purgatory, where like all the good photographers go to die, their careers, not figuratively speaking, not literal speaking. Um, there. So every market, there's a dead zone in pricing, right? So dead zone is just where 90% photographers will be in. It's the middle of the road. The you know in SoCal, it's like if you ask somebody, hey, what's your budget for photography, right? Like 8 out of 10 will say 3,000. That's just kind of like the middle of the mark, right?
Yeah.
So anything from, I would say, 25 to like 4,000, somewhere in there, that's the pricing dead zone. So if you're in that zone, you're literally competing with almost everybody out there, right? So then how do you stand out? Like, if and in that price zone, your clients are super price conscious. They're super uh they're very, very aware of the price tag, let's put it that way. So they can start comparing nickel and diamond. It's just like, hey, for 4,000, can you throw in an extra engagement session? Can you throw in an extra album?
Yeah.
Because the next guy's gonna do it, right? So if you're in that zone, you're competing with everybody. So now you have
Yeah.
two choice. You have three choices. One of them, you drop your price to below that dead zone. You
Mm.
start at 1,500. You start below everybody else, and then you somehow make it up in volume, right?
Yeah.
Or the second way, you go way higher. You like triple you start at three times the dead zone price, so you hit that complete different market. And the next one is you stay in the dead zone, and then you just kind of uh, fight through it. And then at some point, you're gonna be the guy in the dead zone doing that has been doing this longest. So you can start winning by experience. So you can, basically your marketing becomes, hey, I'm 3,000, but I've been doing this for 5 years versus some new guy that's 3,000 that's been doing it for 2 years. So
Okay.
you get that extra experience, but for the same price. That's gonna be your marketing method, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
what I recommend is if you're in the pricing dead zone, I try to get it out of it as soon as possible. It's
so
just hard.
so I want to ask you before we move to the next one. How would you know when to how I guess how would you gauge how much you should charge? Like when would you know when to charge 1,500 and when to charge like
Well,
3,000?
demand. So like when I first started, that 1 year I was at $3,500. I booked 35 weddings, and I was like, no, this is way too much. I was booking way too fast,
Yeah.
right? And then so once I know that pricing was getting me the clients, I started raising my prices because I knew I can't stay in there for long because I won't be able to compete because some new guy's gonna come in for the same price or cheaper, and the client's gonna go to that because at that price range that's what clients want. They want the best bang for the buck, right? And then they will go to whoever's cheaper or whoever can offer them more. So let's say I was at $3,500 for 8 hours, right? The next guy gonna come and say, okay, for $3,500, I'm gonna give you 8 hours plus engagement session plus an album. I can compete with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
so, so then I'm gonna lose that. And I knew this at the time. I knew I couldn't stay in that. So I very quickly I raised to 5 and then went to 7. Now I'm at 8, starting. So I got out the price zone as fast as I could.
So cuz the thing is like for me, for at least like I also know of photographers who are in that price range that's
Right.
low high end, which is like a
Right.
pretty decent price, right?
Right.
But some of them are fearing that they're not booking enough, or should they just increase their price, or should they lower it, or should they like that kind of you're there's always like a pricing purgatory in every single tier, I guess,
Right.
because
Right.
I remember you were telling us about like when you raise your prices, when someone books your top package, that means you need to
You need to
bump
raise it.
raise your prices, right? Man, that's
Right.
that's amazing. Okay,
Yep.
so let's go to number 4, overly complicated price guide.
Yeah, I've seen this like many, many times over where, I mean, imagine going to a restaurant, right? And there's like 500 things on a menu. You get so overwhelmed that you just end up going to what you most, you just grab your mac and cheese, right? Because you just don't have the time to go through the entire menu. It's so overly complicated. Um, I'm a true believer in simplicity and minimalism. So my package only has 4 collections, and then they can obviously add and subtract whatever they want. But when they start out, it's very simple. It's just you start with your day coverage and you start day coverage with engagement session with an album and so on and so forth. It's very, very simple. It's not complicated. I've seen a lot of like credit system where, hey, you get, or I don't know how to explain. Like I couldn't explain to you because I just feel it's so complicated. And the simpler the better.
Well, I remember when we were charging lower.
Right.
We had so many packages. Like you could add you could add a same day edit, or you could add this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
engagement session. What I've noticed is the higher end the client that we get, the less
Right.
time they have to look at all of these things.
No, they just want to take care of it. They say,
Yeah,
"You're the professional. I hired you. You tell me what I need."
exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Like the people who have more money, they usually just okay, just give me what do you think I need, and then let's do it because they
yeah.
usually trust
Or
you.
they will just tell you like, "Okay, this is what I need. Give me a price." You know,
Yeah,
they don't have time to go through your 100 options, and they just don't. They don't care. Like I've seen videographer packages where, they charge extra for wire mic versus a wireless mic. It's like they just it's like what is this? Like something that specific that nobody will even. So here's the thing: when you have something that complicated, I think as a client, I mean, if I were in the shoes, I would think you're trying to nickel and dime me for everything, right?
yeah.
Like you want to charge me little things like just a small upgrade that's whatever. Even my albums, like I just include all the upgrades in the base price because I don't want to nickel and dime my clients.
And you want to make it easy for them. I've heard this before where they said, don't make it hard for your clients to spend money.
Yeah, yeah. Don't make it hard for them to pay you,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so let's go to number 5.
Number five is no incentives for clients to book a higher package. So this is kind of my approach is that, hey, I'm a small boutique business, and I book one wedding a day, right? I don't have multiple teams going out there shooting different weddings, right? So it makes sense for me to get a client to book as high of a package as possible for one single wedding. And to get them to do that, I give them incentives, right? So for example, if they book my highest package, I'm not gonna nickel and dime him for like an extra 5 pages on the album, for example. Or if they book me for the highest package and they say, your engagement session instead of 1 hour, I want to, can we do 2 hours? Sure, no problem, right? I'm not
Hmm.
gonna sit there and say no, that's an extra $20. Like I'm not gonna lose a client over $20. Um, and I've had photographers where they say, if it's more than 50 miles, I'm gonna charge you another $25 for gas. Like, why? Just give it to them. When you start doing that, it really creates the feeling that you're nickel and diming everything. Um, it just doesn't work with the high end clientele. They don't like that. They just give them one price and they're good to go.
Yeah, we usually incorporate the price in the package already, and there's
Yeah,
always wiggle room. Like, oh, let's move to this different place. Okay, fine, yeah, because we all already charged them for adjustments, so
yeah,
it's easier
yeah.
for
Like
them.
yeah, like I booked a really big wedding next year, and our clients wants to do an engagement session, in San Francisco. That's the drive to there from Oakland is it's a further north from San Francisco. It's an extra like 2 hour drive, whatever. I'm not gonna charge them for that because that's my incentive for them to book the higher package. Where hey, I'm not gonna nickel and dime you for little tiny things like that. I'll take care of it. You just show up and then we'll have fun, but you don't have to worry about me charging $50 for it, like for the toll or whatever on Golden Gate Bridge or whatever.
So talking about high end clients, I remember you showing me this invoice of what a client paid you. We're not going to talk
Yeah,
about that invoice, but you told me that you learned a lot from that one booking. You want to talk about that?
sure. I don't, I don't want to talk about how much it was, but I mean
Yeah,
it's
no.
definitely the highest booking I've ever done, and it it's kind of validation of the choices I've made in my business through the last 10 years. I've made a lot of really tough choices for my business. Walking away from commissions where or photo shoots or weddings where I thought it wasn't good for my brand. Um, Pissed off some people because it wasn't my brand. But I had to make a lot of tough business choices to get to this point. Um, I mean, I can say that one invoice was more than what I made like my first year in business. It was substantial, but
It was nuts. I almost spit my drink
yeah.
when you showed it to me.
But it was how do I say this? It really taught me a lot in the sense that okay, how do you deal with the more affluent clients, right? So this client, he didn't care how much things cost. All he kept on saying was I trust your work, I love your work, this is what I want. Just give me a price for it. That's all he said,
My
right?
God.
So So all right, so we had a phone conversation where you told me exactly what you needed, how many days, how many hours. So I rolled out the contract and sent it to him. He looked at it. He sent me email back, said, "Okay, we're good to go," and that was it.
Oh my god.
Like no no bargaining, like nothing. He said, like, "Yeah, we're good to go," and then so I really learned that. And he said, he said, I don't mind paying the price. I just want quality. I want what I pay for, right? So he didn't even look at like the breakdowns. I mean, I provided him a very detailed breakdown of how we got to the price point, and everything was accounted for, down to the last dime or whatever. And he was just very gracious about it. He's just like, hey, I trust you. I just want good work. I know I know you're one of the best out there, and we want you for our wedding. So just send us the invoice.
It's like a dream. It's like a dream for me.
Yeah.
Because usually, the reason why I don't want to get into the higher end market, I
Right.
guess because of videos different. But my fear with high end market is we don't have any chemistry with the couple,
You
and
know,
yeah,
so let me talk about that. So I mean, I didn't grow up rich, like by any stretch of imagination. I didn't. I didn't come from rich background. My parents didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up. I mean, they're really doing really well now. But like when I was growing up, like we were not rich. And we had to come. We moved here from Taiwan when we were 12, and when my parents struggled a little bit when I was growing up. Um, but overall, they didn't kind of like I didn't deal with the affluent friends or in other families. I didn't. So
yeah.
in a lot of ways, it's hard for me to relate to them in a lot of ways. But this notion of affluent clients is really hard to deal with. I found out to be completely the opposite. I love affluent. I love my clients. Right? They hire me. They pay my fee. They know I'm gonna do. They know I'm gonna deliver, and they leave me alone. They don't tell me anything. I show up, I do my job, and I leave. I'm not really friends with my clients in a sense. I'm definitely friendly with them. Like when we see each other for sessions, we go grab coffee or dinner, whatever afterwards. But other than that, I'm not friends with my clients. Like we have a very professional business relationship where they pay my fee and I deliver what they pay me for. And I purposely have kept it that way just because the fact that I feel I don't want to blur the line of being a client and being a friend because my clients are not my friends and I'm a vendor. I'm not their friends, right? I that all that can happen after the wedding's over. Like, well, but if when you still have me retained for a service, I'm gonna do my absolute best. But we're professional. We're bound by professionalism, put it that way. And that's one thing I've always done since day one, where I'm just not I don't look at my clients as my close friends. I just don't. And again, nowadays, like with this whole social media thing, and a lot of photographers claim to be like best friends with my clients. We're blah blah blah, we're besties. Whatever. All all that. Honestly, their definition of best friends is that they like each other's posts, they like each other's photos on social media. That's the extent. That's the extent of the friendship, right? Like I just don't buy into that whole thing. And it's made my job a lot easier to do my job as a professional. And again, I definitely have clients I connected with more than the other. That I like them personally as people. Um, but the relationship is a very professional relationship, and actually I should purposely kind of stay away from establishing any further friendships with my clients until the wedding's over.
Try to make sure that you do your job first. Because I've
Yeah, I got to do my job first, and I just can't do. I have over 20, 50 clients. I can't mentally handle that many friends. I just can't.
I actually have worked with photographers who are like extra friendly with their clients, and I've worked with a planner that's like really close to the clients, and they forget that there are other vendors around,
Yeah,
which
I
kind
mean,
of like
but you have to look at like because nowadays with the social media, being close with somebody has a completely different meaning than what it meant like 10 years ago, right? So now it's like everybody. So now being close to somebody is like social media. Like I like your post, I like your story. We comment back and forth. little heart emojis. I mean, I mean, think that's not friendship. That's a very superficial social interaction that you have with the clients. But a lot of photographers, for whatever reason, for marketing, for I don't know what the reasons are, they really like to make that more than what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and and then also, and I've seen this happen so many times. As soon as something goes wrong, all of a sudden it's like a lawyer talk, right? Dear ma'am. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm heartless or a jerk, whatever. I prefer to have that kind of friendship after the project is finished.
Yeah.
I'm not
Makes
against
sense.
I'm not against it. Just while I have the project, the wedding going on, I like to keep it as professional as possible.
We're friends with our clients, but
Right.
I think it's because we get our energy from them. So before the
Right.
before the wedding day, it's important for us to have like a connection with them because that's where we get our energy from. But it's not like, yay, we're best friends. You should
No,
go out.
you're friendly. You're friendly with them,
Friendly. Okay.
and so am I. I'm friendly with all my clients. Like, but here's the thing, Paul. Because I do a lot of destination stuff, I don't meet my clients until the day of the wedding.
Okay.
I really don't. Like, I have a wedding coming up in Italy. The clients are coming out from Canada. I don't meet them until hours before they walk down the aisle, right? so,
Nice.
so like, how do I establish that kind of rapport with the somebody I don't even meet until the day of the wedding, right? So I mean, so you just I mean, it just my market again. My market is different than everybody else's. And if you do more local weddings, you get to meet your clients before. I 9 out of 10, I don't meet my clients until the day of the wedding.
I think they connect with what you post on social media anyway, so they know what to expect from
Yeah,
you and you what to
yeah.
expect
I mean,
from them.
they have a certain understanding of my personality is before they meet me. I mean, um, I'm generally a very friendly guy. It's just I just I we're not gonna have that kind of deep friendship before a wedding because I just for a fact I don't meet them.
It's nice that you post more personal stuff on your social media. Good thing I didn't check it last night because you just had a Chinese dinner at Chinese New Year dinner.
Yeah.
I don't know where that was, but good thing I wasn't looking at it last night because I was like super hungry. So I just looked at it today.
Yeah, it was an early Chinese New Year dinner. Yeah, it was good.
Okay, so before we end, I
Yeah,
really want to talk to you. Oh, just one advice that
yeah,
I need for people who struggle, who are still in that pricing purgatory in the higher lower end. Like not the $3,000 one, but there are people there who are struggling with
yeah.
do
You're
they yeah,
what I call the entry luxury market. So you're like the coach. You're like the
gotcha.
coach purse.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, not quite like Louis Vuitton, but you're like coach, right? Like,
Hey, I'll take coach.
no, there's nothing wrong with it. It just when I'm putting those terms, people understand what we're talking about, like the entry luxury level, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's the same thing that you gotta do every single time you raise your prices, right? So the way you can raise your prices is by raising your perceived value to your potential clients. Your perceived value has to be higher than what you're charging. Okay, so if you're charging $5,000, your perceived value has to be like 7,000. So people are like, hey, that's actually a good deal. Like I'm getting what I think is $7,000 worth of videography of products, but I'm paying five, right? So
Okay.
every time I raise my prices, I just keep raising perceived value to um, to justify what I'm charging. So so right now I'm consistently over 10K now for each wedding. I wanted people to think they booked a 20,000 photographer, a $20,000 photographer, right? So what I'm doing shoots. I'm doing like more up high end style shoots. I'm shooting at higher venues. My posing, my composition, whatever I can do uh, to make it seem more upscale, more high end. That's what I'm doing. And this is gonna be different for everybody. Like
Oh
because
yeah.
I have a specific clientele I'm going after. You have a specific clientele you're going after. So you just kind of have to figure out like what that clientele wants.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, really quick, but we just realized that with style shoots, we shoot styled shoots differently now
Hmm.
than from before because we know what our client is and who our base is. So it's
Right.
easier for us to do that. Well, I really want to thank you for. I really appreciate this, and thank you for giving us your knowledge and your tips. Maybe you could tell people how they could reach you, and if you have any upcoming workshops anytime
Yeah,
soon.
I mean, my website's just it's really simple. Keep everything simple. jeremychow.com. And I do have a workshop coming up in Atlanta, in Georgia, in April 15th and 16th. They can go to jeremychowworkshop.com, or they can just go to my website and email me, and I can send all the information.
Thank you so
Uh-huh.
much for being here again. I really appreciate it, and hopefully to see you soon. And more power to you. Thanks,
All
Jeremy.
right, thanks for having me.
So there you have it. Since you already know why businesses fail, make sure you fail smart and price yourself properly because we're a small business, so we kind of need to make money. This is the first masterclass, and I would love to know what you think. So feel free to reach out so I can bring in the right people to help you in building your business. I really need honest opinions and suggestions. I hope this episode was helpful. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, just feel free to reach out. I'm throwing out all these information goldness for free, so I'd really appreciate it if you help me by subscribing, rating, or leaving a review. Thank you so much to those who already did. I've been reading them and it's just inspiring. I can't wait to give you more content. Thanks for listening. It means the world to me. Watch out for the next episodes of the Wedding Video Boss podcast. Till then, play nice if you can't win, and be nice, especially if you're good looking. Boss man, out.